Great. Okay. And so, yes, what I'm going to do is we've got a few in the waiting room. So I'm going to admit everybody else who is looking to get in. There we go. Fantastic. Great. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in for tonight's presentation. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your evenings to learn a little bit more about Rocky Mountaineer. And I'm also really happy to work with Blows and Stewart Travel here in Peterborough. I'm actually based here in Peterborough as well. So, you know, with the restrictions we still have, obviously we couldn't do this in person, but really happy to have the opportunity to do it virtually. So I did type into the chat box there quick, you know, hey, if you have questions, you can put them in here. It is just me on the presentation this evening. And so you'll have to give me a second at the end of the presentation. I can jump into the chat box and kind of start answering those questions. And of course, we can unmute ourselves afterwards and have a conversation too. So that's a little bit of the admin at the start, I guess. I've already been talking for a little bit, but hello, everybody. My name is Gary. I am the Business Development Manager for Rocky Mountaineer in Eastern Canada. I had the great good fortune to live in Alberta. I lived in Calgary for over 10 years. And so I'm really excited to tell you more about the wonders of Western Canada, as well as the Rocky Mountaineer, the different routes that we have. So I'll click through to the agenda here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the why behind Rocky Mountaineer, so the magic of the railroad and what our guests enjoy when they're traveling with us. I'll talk about the how, so the onboard experience, the different levels of service that we have as a company, our Silverleaf and Goldleaf service. The what, so discuss the 3 different routes we have in Canada across the Rockies, as well as our new US route south of the border. And then we do have promotions, a promotion that is running for the rest of this month in February to provide you with some extra value, some savings if you're looking to travel with us in the spring or the fall of 2022. And then time for question and answers as well. So without further ado, for us at Rocky Mountaineer, it is all about providing extraordinary experiences. So what we are able to give our guests is that gift of time of being able to slow down, relax, and enjoy the journey. So we talk about the 4 S's at Rocky Mountaineer, the service level, so the inclusive nature of the trip, that everything on board is included, your food, your wines, your beverages, non-alcoholic and alcoholic, the snacks, everything on board the train is included in the cost of your ticket. We also have the scenery, and I'm a little biased because I spent a lot of time in the mountains and I feel like it is some of the best scenery anywhere in the world. And even Albertans know, and I think BC is as well, that the best way to explore and experience the mountains is to be able to sit back and relax in a comfortable seat and kind of watch the Rockies go by outside versus having to concentrate on the traffic and look out for the animals or kind of see it in any other way. We also have our hosts on board. So this is elevating the experience. It's the storytelling that we have, that 3rd S. So the ability for our hosts on board to bring the magic of the landscapes alive, to really help you learn more about the geological processes that have shaped those mountains, those rivers, the forests that you're going through, but also talk about the human history and some of the engineering marvels that you are literally rolling along and over as you're traveling through the Rocky Mountains with us. And then we have the sweet and the savory. So the beautiful food inspired and sourced locally to make sure that you're getting the best of what the Rocky Mountains has to offer. And so there's a lot of different things that go into making up our experiences. We have been operating these journeys for more than 35 years. This is, and you'll have to excuse some of the rail puns here, but it is a well-oiled machine. The quality of the service elevates it to that luxury experience where everything is taken care of. If you're staying in a partner hotel with us, before your trip, you've got that pre-night, you just leave your luggage in the room, and it will, the Rocky Mountaineer luggage ferries will ensure that it appears for you in your hotel room for that Midpoint hotel and in that final destination. So there's no need to worry about the little things. We will take care of all that for you, on the trip and prior to and after. So there's a lot of different parts that make it that experience. we are a daylight only train as well. So one of the other key benefits of traveling with Rocky Mountaineer is a really good night's sleep at the end of the day, because you're in a real bed. You're staying at one of our partner hotels or at our Midpoint hotel in Kamloops or in Quesnel and Whistler. And so you have that chance to stretch your legs after your train journey and then get a good night's rest. We want to ensure that our guests can experience the Rocky Mountains and see the Rocky Mountains. So that means going through in the daylight. It means we are a seasonal operator. So we only run our trips between April and October each year, because that's when we have enough daylight to make the 8 to 10 hour journeys between our different stops along the way. And so again, just making sure that you get to see and experience all that the mountains have to offer. We have our one season that we operate, but there are kind of 3 seasons within that season. So different times of travel within the year that kind of give you a different view of the Rocky Mountains. My favorite time to be in the mountains, and I just thought back to my years in Calgary, I tended to make that trip up to the Rockies during the spring, April and May, early June, where the mountains still have that dusting of snow on them. And I really feel the Rockies, they just look better with a little bit of snow. Everything is waking up, the animals are all there, they're all awake. They're all very hungry, and so they're not too worried about people, and they're all at the lower elevations. So bears coming up to the tracks potentially to grab some of the grain that may have fallen off of the cars that are transporting it, the freight trains, and then everything is there. The foliage hasn't grown back yet, and so really good wildlife viewing opportunities. You can just see further into the forest, and then with the snow melt, you've got all these waterfalls that spring up along the route as water cascades off of the mountains. There are shorter days, they are colder days. I definitely recommend bringing some layers with you for your time off of the train. But I feel like it really shows the mountains off to their best is in those early months. We have our summer trips as well. So this is going to be the end of June, July, and August. The days are getting longer, they're getting warmer, more time to explore during the day. But also the mountains are getting busier. There are more international travelers who are there, depending on the time of year, school is out. And so you have more Alberta and BC residents in the mountains as well. And so wait times in restaurants and at some of the sightseeing attractions can be a little bit longer, but you do have more time and it is a little bit warmer. The animals are kind of starting to retreat to higher elevations and deeper into the mountains to keep away from people, and also their food sources have changed. But it is, one of the most popular times to travel with us, I think, because of that warmer weather. And finally, you can see that our teams in marketing are from the UK, the autumn or the fall. This is going to be our September departures. This is where we have the highest level of demand. The salmon are running, the snow may be back onto the peaks. The eagles are chasing the salmon, the bear are chasing the salmon, the wildlife is coming back down. And you do have some opportunity to see a little bit of the changing colors in the mountains. Ultimately, it's not like in Ontario and Eastern Canada where we have a lot of deciduous trees. It's mostly pine and fir and evergreen trees. So there's a few parts of the route where you get to see the changing color. But more so, I think it really is just the salmon running and the elk that are rutting and those other draws to the mountains in September. And so I've talked a little bit about wildlife, and this really is a massive draw. You are going through some very remote parts of the Rocky Mountains on a number of our trips, and animals in their natural habitat in the wild are plentiful, and our train locomotive engineers are in constant contact with each of our hosts by radio. So if they see those elk or the moose, fording the river or crossing and swimming through the lake, if there's the bear, up the mountainside further ahead, they will radio back to ensure that each of our hosts know and can tell you, our guests, that, hey, we've got a bear coming up, or we've got bald eagles on the fence posts or on the trees, on this side of the track. And so there is a lot of opportunity to see amazing wild animals in the wild as you go through the Rocky Mountains with us. And so that's a little bit of the why, like the magic of the railroad, that slower pace of travel. There is no Wi-Fi on board. And so, there really is that opportunity to disconnect from the digital world to put the screens away and to talk to the people that we are traveling with. And I think that's why we see a lot of couples, but also families and groups of friends traveling together, because it's just that chance to stop, to kind of talk to each other, to trade stories, and to enjoy each other's company as we go through some of the most spectacular scenery in the world. So you are welcomed on board our trains by our hosts. We have two different levels of service on Rocky Mountaineer. And I always like to stress that the quality of service is the same. Our hosts are fantastic. The food is great. The scenery is amazing. With both of the different coaches that we have, the Silverleaf and Goldleaf cars, they are both custom designed and built to give our guests the best possible experience. This isn't a commuter train. We're not in a rush, and we're not trying to pack as many people into a car as possible. It's about ensuring that every person traveling with us gets the best experience. So Silverleaf is a slightly more cost-effective option when traveling with us. It is a single level car. So this is great because everything's all on one level. And then you do have those large windows and the windows slightly higher above them. A lot of the views in the Rocky Mountains are vertical, right? The forest is right here. The tracks are right up against the landscape. And so it ensures that you have the ability to see those vertical views. As I mentioned, it's all on that one level. Your meals are served to you at your seat as well. So no need to go downstairs to the dining car. You're not being seated with other guests to have your meals. You can have them served at your seat. And the seats are comfortable. You've got more leg room than you do. This is not an airline seat. You have space, you have room. And as I mentioned, I love these pictures to bring you into the train because it is about bringing the outside in and giving our guests space to enjoy the journey and to experience the landscapes that you're traveling through. And so opportunity to move around the car and to get great pictures on our Silverleaf level of service. Goldleaf is the more popular way to travel with us. It is a bi-level coach, and so we've got two levels. The upper level is where our guests are sitting, and then the lower level is reserved for the dining car, as well as the outdoor viewing platform. So one of the benefits of Goldleaf is you do have that chance to go outside and kind of breathe the fresh mountain air. And with Goldleaf, you have those domes that go all the way over. And so this just really does give you that panoramic view of the Rockies as you're traveling through. This is a typical scene from one of our journeys. The dining car downstairs will seat about half as many people who are traveling with us. And so, while half of the guests are dining, it gives you, again, that freedom to move around a little bit. Our hosts, of course, are entertaining you and bringing that landscape alive and really giving you that opportunity to learn and appreciate and enjoy the scenery that you're going through. For those guests who are downstairs enjoying lunch or breakfast, everything on our Goldleaf cars is prepared on the car. So we have a kitchen, a galley kitchen on our Goldleaf level of service. And so from the menu when you order, it's all prepared at that time. You can see some guests enjoying some croissants, some eggs Benedict, a skillet, and again, giving you the best views for those meals as you're traveling through. The food is inspired by the local region. We have a new executive chef this year who is busily preparing the menu. We do have the opportunity to provide those menus in advance. Contact your Blows and Stewart travel advisor. So once we have them, they can request them and we can get them to you. There is a good range of choice on both our Silverleaf and Goldleaf cars. And if you have particular dietary requirements, just let us know in advance so we can make sure we've got some fresh food into the shops, from the shops if we are looking to have to prepare something different to what's on the menu. Again, menu choices will include vegetarian options and vegan options and those things as well. But if it's particular dietary requirements, just let us know and we can make sure that we're able to meet them as well. And then, of course, that chance to take a breath of fresh air. We have about a maximum of 68 guests on a Goldleaf car. Roughly half of those can fit in the dining room downstairs at a time and are served their meals. And on the platform, we can have about 12 people. So not everybody can be on the outdoor viewing platform at the same time, but it really is just another great way to kind of see and experience the Rockies, to hear the water rushing past as you're traveling on the train. And so just another great benefit of traveling with us with our Gold Leaf level of service. So that's a little bit of the why and the how. We have a number of different routes where we travel through the Rockies. And so I wanted to describe each of these in a little bit more detail so you know about some of the highlights of the different journeys. So for each of these routes, you can travel in either direction. We have our services run both ways. I do like recommending starting in Vancouver, because then as you're leaving Vancouver, if you're on First Passage to the West or Journey Through the Clouds, the red and the blue routes, then you're kind of getting settled in your seat. We're having the toast to begin the journey as we're moving through Vancouver. And then the scenery really starts to open up as you get settled into the journey and start getting your breakfast. But we also do have the opportunity, if you're traveling in the other direction, if you want to end in Vancouver, we can do that as well for you too. I'm just going to pause here for a second and admit some people who missed the start of the presentation, which is why we're recording. So ultimately, let me go through each of these in kind of a bit more detail. There we go. So First Passage to the West, this is the most popular route that we operate. So these are the original tracks that connected the country in 1886. And so we are the only passenger train that runs through where that last spike was put down, from Kamloops, through the mountains, through the spiral tunnels, up into Banff, and then that route between Lake Louise and Banff. The only way to travel on those tracks as a passenger is to travel with us, with the Rocky Mountaineer. And so this is a really beautiful journey. It is the most popular journey that we have. You can see I've got two different maps up there. You can travel rail only with Rocky Mountaineer. If you want to talk to your Blows and Stewart travel advisor, they'll kind of give you more information on the various packages that we have. If you just want the rail component, we can do that. More often, we'll see guests book in hotels, pre in Vancouver and post in Banff or in Lake Louise. And then you'll see on the other image, we do have sightseeing packages as well. So the chance to explore the region a little bit more once you're in the Rockies or before you journey in the other direction with us. And I'll speak to those in a bit more detail as well. But from Vancouver to Kamloops, you're going to learn more about the geology as you go. One of the highlights I've pulled up here is the Cisco Crossing. So this is an interesting piece of history where the CP rail was the first line that was put in, and it crosses the Fraser River and then runs on the other side because that was the easiest route to lay the tracks. Then a number of years later, Canadian National built their railway, and they were forced to build on the other side because there physically isn't enough room to have the tracks lay next to each other. And so they were forced on the other side, but they were also forced to cross the river at the same point because they couldn't keep building on that same line because the other tracks were there. And so this is one of the few places where you have the opportunity to see trains going in both directions on both rail lines. And it's one of those engineering marvels that is a real highlight of traveling on these original rails. Of course, further along the track, when you're going from Kamloops through into the Rockies, we have the spiral tunnels as well. And so I couldn't get we don't have an image of this because it's a tunnel, and so it's all underground. But it's how they were able to take out one of the most dangerous parts of this route, where there's a massive elevation difference for the tracks over a short distance. And so versus going down the big hill, you now go through these engineering marvels of the spiral tunnels. And again, the only way of seeing those is to be traveling on First Passage to the West with Rocky Mountaineer. So not just scenic beauty, but also, some real engineering highlights from the 19th and early 20th centuries on these routes as well. Journey Through the Clouds is how you get to Jasper with Rocky Mountaineer. We also have Rainforest to Gold Rush, which I'll mention in a second. But this is the same journey from Vancouver up to Kamloops, overnight stay in Kamloops, where you will have your room key before you leave the train. So at the end of your first day's journey, we will go out and give you your room key. You will then be transferred by coach directly to your hotel, where you will walk directly into your hotel room. So you'll notice from the pictures that I showed earlier, there isn't any overhead storage on any of our trains. And so just take what you need with you for the day on the train, because your luggage will be there and waiting for you as soon as you arrive at the hotel. So you can add those layers on and then explore Kamloops or your final destination, or in the mountains if you're traveling with us in that way. And so with Journey Through the Clouds, that second day, the highlights for this, you're traveling past Mount Robson. So that image that you see in front of you is the tallest peak in the Canadian Rockies. The fascinating thing about Mount Robson is that it's so high, it actually generates its own weather. So this image is atypical. You only see a few clouds at the peak of Mount Robson. It is actually very difficult. We have far more images of a cloudy peak where you can have beautiful sunny day and kilometers of visibility, but because it generates its own weather, the peak of the mountain is shrouded in cloud. So it's always that question as we come around the bend, are we going to be able to see the peak of Mount Robson? This is just one of a number of real scenic highlights along this journey. You'll also travel through and past Pyramid Falls. Again, the spring is a great time to be in the region because of the extra water flow that's coming off the side of this glacier-fed waterfall. When you get the snow melt into it as well, it really gives you enough spray that if you're standing on our viewing platform, you can actually, get that spray and literally, be impacted by that as it comes off the side of the mountain. When you're going up and through and into Jasper, Jasper really is in the heart of the Rockies. And so there are amazing wildlife viewing opportunities. If you're looking out for wolves, although there is one wolf pack, I think still in Banff, by going up to Jasper, you have the opportunity, they have more elk, moose, and then also more wolf packs up there as well. And so just another way of getting to Jasper with us, we have our Rainforest to Gold Rush route. So our other journeys are 2 days. So a day on the rail at a Midpoint hotel and another day on the rail. With Rainforest to Gold Rush, we give you an extra day. So it's a half-day journey up to Whistler, the opportunity to explore that beautiful mountain town, and then a full day's journey up to Quesnel, the gold rush town where there was no gold, and then from there traveling into Jasper on that final day. Our rail days on each of these journeys are about 8 to 10 hours, and that depends a lot on the weather. If it's a very hot day, like we had a lot in 2021, then we actually have to slow down just because of the temperature of the rail tracks. So that can mean that it's a little bit longer duration during the day. Rainforest to Gold Rush is where we have the least availability. We're only able to run a couple trips, well, one trip per week through the season, and the season is a little bit shorter. We only operate from May through till the end of September, just because of the climate and the weather and the snow for these routes. And so it's a little bit longer duration, but I would recommend booking well in advance, just because it's, the other impediment is that just physically aren't enough hotel beds in Quesnel. And so it's a beautiful journey. Rainforest to Gold Rush is, it's where we have the least supply. Again, speaking to your Blows and Stewart travel agent is going to give you more information on each of these routes and the best ways to kind of experience the Rockies with us. I really like speaking to circle journeys as well. Often the feedback we get from some guests is that, you can book a 5-day, an 8-day, a 10-day trip with Rocky Mountaineer and just have 2 days of that be on the train. If you have sightseeing in Vancouver before, if you have sightseeing after, then you can have a long duration trip, but only have 2 days on the train. And so by doing a circle journey, by combining these routes, it means you can go from Vancouver, first passage to the west into Banff, visit Lake Louise, sightseeing up the Icefield Parkway, board again in Jasper, and then travel on one of our other 2 routes back to Vancouver to have, 4 or 5 days traveling on our train. with sightseeing in between. And so, yeah, I just always want to mention that as well. We do have those curated sightseeing packages available for you as well. So working with partners in the destination, in the mountains and in Vancouver, to make sure that you're able to see the highlights of that region as well. I mean, each of the cities that I've spoken to are points of departure or arrival. I mean, these are destinations in and of themselves. I wanted to mention that that Patty at Blows and Stewart, she has a group that she's put together, that she's built in additional sightseeing that's only available as part of that group, where you've got an additional 2 days of sightseeing in Vancouver, and then, you know, sightseeing through the mountains with us as well, from Banff to Lake Louise and then down to Calgary. And I really do recommend, if you haven't been to the Rockies, if you haven't spent a lot of time in Western Canada, then it really is a beautiful destination to explore. And so the sightseeing that's available in Vancouver, yes, you can hike the Capilano Bridge over the coastal forests there, go up to Grouse Mountain to see the beautiful landscapes of where the ocean hits the city and up into the mountains. A really beautiful place to spend a little bit more time. Of course, once you arrive in the mountains, you can enjoy the iconic mountain town of Banff, a place that is, yeah, iconic for a reason. Absolutely stunningly beautiful views any time of year. The chance to get on the Banff gondola, to head up Sulphur Mountain, to see the landscapes in and around that area is truly spectacular. As part of the sightseeing, we travel up to Lake Minnewanka as well, and have a sightseeing cruise on Lake Minnewanka, which is just absolutely beautiful. Of course, if you're doing one of those longer journeys with us, you can also spend time in Lake Louise and even stay at the Chateau Lake Louise, so you can wake up to that picture postcard beautiful morning view. If you're traveling in the spring with Patty's group, or with us on our departures in Lake Louise, then the lake is still frozen in April, begins to thaw out, I think, by the end of May. And so you get the best pictures of the Chateau from the middle of the lake, which you can only get in the winter. Otherwise, you're going to have to swim out into the lake in the summer and get them. It's just, yeah, it's absolutely a beautiful, iconic region and place. And the Chateau Lake Louise is really the, yeah, it's the best accommodation in the area. There is a small town at the base of the mountain, but if you're going to be in Lake Louise, then the Chateau is where all of our guests will stay if you're staying with us overnight on an itinerary there. Lots of time to explore, to walk around the lake. So you'll see in this image on the far bank that there is actually a walking path that can take you around to get a better view of the Victoria Glacier, which is what feeds into Lake Louise and gives it that beautiful aquamarine color. If you're spending time with us in Jasper, then again, sightseeing opportunities in Jasper, visiting Malign Lake and learning more about the fauna and flora there. You really are in the heart of the Rocky Mountains in Jasper. It is, you know, in the middle of nowhere. Absolutely beautiful, fantastic wildlife there and viewing opportunities. And it's also a dark sky reserve. And so one of the few places left on the planet where it's certified as dark sky, because you know, there isn't any light pollution, because you're in the heart of this group of national parks. And so there are no major towns and cities that are, yeah, polluting the night, which gives you, you know, fantastic nighttime photography opportunities. And then I'll end with Calgary, a city that's, yeah, close to my heart. I lived there for a long time, an absolutely wonderful center. The hotels that we use are right downtown, either the Delta, which you see there, the Fairmont, which is right at the base of the Calgary Tower, as well as Hotel Arts. You'll see the River Walkway there, an absolutely beautiful stretch of walkway right on the Bow River. With one end, you've got Sunnyside and the beautiful neighborhood there. On the other, you've got Inglewood. And then, of course, right downtown, you have the brand new library, which is a kind of a structural marvel in and of itself. So lots to see and do and explore in Calgary. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the symphony while you're there as well. The fact that a town of less than 1 million people, I guess the city of less than 1 million people, has its own symphonic orchestra, really highly recommend booking in the opportunity to see that live while you're in Calgary as well. So that's a highlight of the wonders of Western Canada. I wanted to quickly mention our new route in the Rockies in the US as well. So this is just Silverleaf service available in the US because the tunnels that you go through there are physically, our gold leaf cars are physically too tall to go through those tunnels. We have a little bit of a longer season. It's starting earlier in April and we can run further into October with it. You're going through the mountains of Colorado and Utah. So again, you can travel in either direction with us from Denver. The Midpoint Hotel of Glenwood Springs, which has hot springs as its central point and is a really beautiful, quaint, remote town in, within the mountains of Colorado. Then the next day, traveling on to Moab, in the heart of the national parks, Arches National Park being one that you may notice photos from, but also Canyonlands, Zion, all within that area. And so it really is a great base to then go and do more exploration of the national parks in Utah. You can fly into Salt Lake City or Las Vegas, and we have a flight seeing partner where you'll board a small charter private aircraft and fly at 2,000 feet from Vegas or from Salt Lake into Moab with a guided tour with your headset on as the pilot is kind of flying low at certain parts. Actually, the canyons are above you when you're on the plane to really enjoy the landscapes of this part of the world as well. And so for our guests who travel with us to the US, we just launched this route last year. We're really excited to operate a full season this year. And once you see the landscapes and the engineering marvels, again, that are part of this route, our guests understand, why it is that we've chosen this particular route within the US to launch our first international departures that start and end in the US. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour of all things Rocky Mountaineer. If you have questions, you can start typing them into that chat box, or of course, I'll be able to, you can unmute yourself and I can answer the questions that way too. I did also want to say that we do have our spring fall promotion going on right now. And so if you're looking to travel with us in April or in May or in October on our Canadian routes, then you get $1,000 off per couple for those dates and departures. And then if you're looking to travel on our US route, then September is added in where you can have September dates for travel in the US at $1,000 off per couple as well. So this is, a very good time, 2022. We're very excited to operate our entire season. We do understand that, we are operating in strange times right now. We have enhanced flexibility on our terms and conditions when you're booking. So when you're making those deposits for 2022 travel, you have up until 60 days prior to departure to cancel for any reason, and we will turn that deposit into a future travel credit for you for use either later in 22 or in the 2023 season as well. Again, the best person for more information on the terms and conditions of booking is going to be your Blows and Stewart travel agent. I want to thank all of you for taking some time out of your evening to learn more about, the wonder and the magic of railroad travel, about the different levels of service and the quality of that service that we offer at Rocky Mountaineer, and about some of the different routes that we operate in Canada and the US. If you have any questions, then absolutely type them into that chat box or unmute yourself and I'll be able to answer your questions that way as well. What I might do is stop the share so that I can see all of your smiling faces and then also see any questions that we might have in the chat. What time of day do the tours begin? Absolutely. So it's a relatively early morning for Rocky Mountaineer trains. So breakfast is served on the train. So usually we like to set off between 7:30 and 8 in the morning, which means leaving the hotel a little bit earlier than that. And that works quite well because we get you up, we get you on the train, and then it's time for breakfast. And then it means that we have that time at the end of the day. We're arriving at our Midpoint hotel or the destination, in the early evening or late afternoon, so that we have a little bit more time to explore. So there's no need to worry about breakfast in the morning, because for those rail days, breakfast is going to be on the train, but it is a bit of an early wake-up call. But you've been sleeping in a wonderful bed all night versus on a moving train car, so you're going to be well rested for breakfast. Great. Are there any questions? Shoot away. Well, I really want to thank you guys, for your time this evening. Absolutely, please reach out to your Blows and Stewart travel advisor if you have any questions about anything that that come up later after the event. This is also recorded, and so I'll be sending it off to Blows and Stewart, and they can make sure that you have access to this as well. What I will do is put Patty's email address in the chat as well. So she's built this group where it's actually a via rail trip for the first portion to get you from Toronto across, and then time in Vancouver sightseeing, and then the Rocky Mountaineer train from Vancouver through to the mountains. If you would like to do that entire journey, absolutely, it's available. If you just want to do the Rocky Mountaineer portion, there's that option as well. And she's included flights to Vancouver to join the group there as well. And that's a May departure. And so for the Rocky Mountaineer portion, you're boarding the train May, I want to say 16th. But with the group, the promotion isn't available on group space. But Patty booked this back in 2020, and so it's going to be a very competitive pricing compared to booking now for that same journey. And she has that included sightseeing that's not part of our our FIT trips. So lots of opportunities to reach out to Blows for more information on all things Rocky. Again, I want to thank you guys for your time, and if there aren't any questions, then I will leave it there.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.